Today we're going to learn more strategies for determining implicit main ideas, or hidden main ideas. Remember that a goal of reading complex nonfiction is to determine what the main ideas are, plus find supporting details. We need to not only observe what is tricky about the text, we also need to invent little strategies for tackling those difficulties. This is super important because just think, if we share those strategies, everyone will have a toolkit of ways to discern the main ideas in more complex texts. We're going to watch a video, so get a paper and pencil and write down all of the main ideas you see in the video. It's gonna come fast. Pause right now if you need to get paper and pencil. When you're ready, move forward with the video. It should start on its own, but if it doesn't, here's the link to YouTube. How many main ideas did you find? Here's just a few of the main ideas. New York large population, geography, emergencies are a challenge, preparedness. Does New York have a plan? Weather emergencies, water, power, and public service disruptions, wall of water. You might have even thought of more. Think of reading strategies like playing Mario Kart. Have you ever played that? You race around in these tiny cars on a track, dodging enemy racers, trying not to take the turns too tightly, and of course, avoiding the dreaded bananas that make your car lose control. My kids and I would play this game for hours. We thought that if we could figure out where the tough parts to Rainbow Road were, and we knew just where they were, that would help us win. But it turned out it wasn't enough to just know what made it tough. We had to develop strategies, like eventually we had to learn to stay a foot away from the edge and to go slow on the third turn. We need to do the same thing with nonfiction texts. We need to not just know the hard parts, but we also have to come up with strategies that help with those hard parts. Today I want to teach you that once readers know how a nonfiction text is complex when it comes to main ideas, they can develop and draw on a toolkit of strategies to support them in determining the main idea. Today's strategy is called chunking. Sounds a little weird, but the idea is that we chunk or take sections of a text. Then we find the main idea for that chunk, just that small part. For the video, it would have been easier to watch a little bit at a time, or a chunk of the video. Then decide what the main idea was for that chunk. After watching the whole thing, then you can look at how those chunks would have fit together. But the real challenge is also to think, what else? What is another main idea that's being put forward? If you really pay attention, you'd probably be able to find 4 or 5 ideas, but then for them to be the main idea, you'd want to settle on just a few. Probably no more than 2. Most texts don't contain more than that for main ideas. If you'd like, you can watch the video again, this time in chunks. You can pause and stop to write down the main idea for that chunk. Here's the link to the video again, if it doesn't play automatically on the next slide. Let's talk about our video chunks. What main ideas did you spot for each chunk? So for example, I saw that there was New York, large populations, geography. Those kind of went together in one chunk. Then I heard about emergencies are a challenge, that preparedness is a real problem. And does New York have a plan? That was kind of chunked together. Then they were talking about weather emergencies, water, power, and public services that were disrupted. They were talking about this wall of water. Those were different chunks, each having a separate main idea. But now we need to think about how do we put these chunks all together to decide what the paragraph is really about. So you can combine the chunks. We need to talk a little bit about each of the chunks together in one sentence. For example, Because of New York's large population and geography, New York needs an emergency plan to deal with challenges. Does this describe basically the overall idea of this whole video? If you can answer yes, then you chunked all of the pieces and parts together. If it feels like something's missing, maybe you missed a small piece that would make this make more sense. So again, in chunking, you're taking parts of the video, coming up with a main idea for each individual part, and then putting it all together in one sentence to sum up the overall picture or main idea of the video. It's super important as we read our own nonfiction texts that we don't just say back every little thing the text is saying in every chunk and all the teeny tiny supportive details. We really need to find what the main idea is. And then we need to see how those chunks fit together. But then we also have to decide what the strongest supporting details are. We don't want to list every teeny tiny detail. When we put that all together, we might be able to then see the bigger picture, what the main idea is for the whole text. Are you ready to try? Go back to Teams and find the nonfiction text. If it's something you've already read, when lunch bites back, you're going to reread it, thinking about main ideas the author is trying to teach you. We're going to do the same activity we did with the video. You're going to chunk each section. In each chunk, find a main idea. After, you're going to combine each main idea or different chunk of the paragraph and combine it all together in one sentence. This should give you the overall main idea for the entire paragraph. Ready? As you continue to read today, you should be reading nonfiction. You can look for books on Epic or check out your local library. Most of them have downloadable books that you can get that are a little bit larger than what's on Epic. Keep in mind that often the main idea in any nonfiction text won't be clearly stated. They'll be implicit. Remember, that means hidden. You have to do more work to find the main idea. So really push yourself as you're reading your own books today to look for the main ideas and the supporting details as you continue to read. Now, off you go. Happy reading.